Tonight, I just want to share with you one of the best chess games ever played. In fact, this chess game is known as the Immortal Game. You've probably, if you're watching this video and you're into chess, you probably have heard of the Immortal Game. This is the original Immortal Game. You know, a lot of people have had their own Immortal Games, like Magnus Carlsen has had some Immortal Games of his own. I've had an Immortal Game myself, but the original Immortal Game, not a Mortal Game, was played by a man named Adolf Andersen. So before I even show you guys the game, look, if you've also seen the game before, like me, then you can just enjoy this video for the ASMR purposes. It can never really hurt going over a chess game, you know, because chess is just like this amazing game. It's timeless, and I think this game is one of those games too. But anyway, before we get into the game, I thought it made sense to read some of the history of the game. So let's read this page, this article on chess.com really quickly, and then we're gonna get into the game. So, the Immortal Game is one of the most well-known chess games ever played. Adolf Andersen sacrifices all of his heavy pieces and more to deliver a legendary checkmate. Let's find, yeah, we're not going to do that still. Anyway, this guy right here is Adolf Andersen. Now, obviously back in the 19th century when this game was actually played, I believe it was like 1857, something like this. They didn't have online chess, right? So any chess game that was played against other people, like, you had to play in real life. Now just for a second, imagine that you were in the 19th century and you were sitting across this guy right here. Like, you made your first normal move. Well, Andersen played white, so he made the first move. And let's say you tried to play a pierce defense and you played d6, and then you looked up and you saw this. That's tough. I would be intimidated. I might even just resign and forfeit the game. But hold tight, Adolf. The game was played between Andersen and Lionel, something very special. Between rounds of the first international tournament, which was held in London in 1951. What did I say? 57. I was 6 years off. That's not that bad. Andersen won this tournament. Wow. And became regarded as the strongest chess player in the world. Okay, look. When we get into this game, it's going to be very interesting to see what they considered strong back in the day. And it wasn't that long ago, but just, well, like 100 and... just what they considered strong is very interesting, because the way they played chess was very different to how we play modern chess now. But anyway, his opponent was famous for playing games at the Café de la Régence in Paris. He was also a chess teacher. That's nice. His opponent was so impressed with Andersen's play that he telegraphed the moves of the game to the chess club in Paris, and the game was published shortly after. Basically, he created a BGN of the game, and then it got published. Ernest Forkbeer, known for the Forkbeer counter gambit in the King's Gambit. King's Gambit is actually what Andersen played in the Immortal Game, but we'll get onto it. Dubbed it the Immortal Game in 1855. Basically, the Immortal Game is really important because it's a display of fantastic sacrifices, and it has an unforgettable checkmating pattern, which was what, e6 or e5, but we're gonna get onto that. One of the most famous attacking games of all time. You know what, I need to get into the game because I have a lot to actually say about the game. Okay, this is cool. We'll just get into the game now. So, as you can see, right, it's interesting what they called really strong play back in the day. His opponent only had an accuracy. This is obviously chess.com and their engine. It's a Stockfish engine, but I don't know its depth, right? But its accuracy is only 62.6%. Now, I don't know what ELO that would give you in modern chess, but this accuracy isn't very good. And then Adolf Andersen had an accuracy of 78.5%, which I guess that's a lot better, but it's not really like the highest levels. Grandmasters right now, player accuracy is over 90% for an entire game. So I feel like this game is literally a game that could have been played between two people of not very, but low elo. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, maybe two 800, 700 ranked players could actually accomplish this game and could have played one of the most. Do you see what I'm saying? It's really weird. It's really strange. But anyway, as you can also see, Adolf actually has 5 great moves and 1 brilliant move. I know that anyone playing chess, especially if you do play on chess.com and you do analyze your games, let's say you have a diamond membership, getting brilliant moves is literally the best feeling in the world when you crush your opponent. Maybe you don't crush them, but it's a hard fought win, and you click on game review and then it does its thing, and then it generates the game review, and it's like, raw, brilliant move. Anyway, let's get into the game. So like I said before, Adolf actually offers a King's Gambit, and the idea of the King's Gambit is very simple. If the King's Gambit is actually accepted, which in this case it was, and it's a book move, if it's accepted, what the King's Gambit, and pretty much most Gambit, especially the Queen's Gambit, what they allow you to do is rapid development. So on the next move, if you're playing normal chess, I hate this shit. Fuck. Anyway, this move to d4 controls the entire center, and now you have 2 central pawns in comparison to your opponent's 1 d pawn in the center, right? It also means that once you do this, you can actually recapture. Yes, your opponent can defend it with a g pawn, but you can actually develop and possibly recapture that gambited pawn and develop a piece. So it's like 2 birds with 1 stone. Your light squared bishop is actually free to do whatever he wants. He can fianchetto, he can come into the middle of the board and develop normally. It's a very good gambit. There's many ways to continue this, and Andersen actually chose a book move, which is just developing the bishop, like I said. Now here's where this gets really weird. When I was talking about low elo, right? Strong players don't normally bring their queens out really quickly. And on move 4, the queen comes out to check the king. And you know what the king does? The king just moves like this. The engine says the advantage for white is only 0.43 right now, but this is such a strange way to play chess. Like, chess is not played like this at all right now, right? Now the king can't castle. The queen is in a really precarious position. She's on the white side of the board, so she can quite easily be attacked, right? And it's really tricky. So after the king moves, Adolf's opponent, Lionel, he plays a strange move also. And he plays pawn b5. Now the engine is calling this move a mistake, and it is. But what Lionel was trying to do was, if the bishop were to capture the pawn, the bishop is capturing away from the center of the board. And that is basically Lionel's attempt to throw Adolf off his game. So the best move was obviously to take, right? And then the best move for black is to play knight f6, and this move was obviously the best move because it's a normal developing move, and it also targets the pawn on e4, obviously. Now remember what I said about the queen coming out way too early, and now it could be attacked, right? Well, in twofold, a developing move would be f3, right? Knight f3. And that also targets the queen, so it develops with a tempo on the queen, right? So the queen obviously retreats, and this is the best square for the queen. d3 was played in an attempt to support the pawn on e4, which is attacked by the knight on f6, and also free up the position for this bishop. bishop on the diagonal with the queen is always dangerous, right? The engine is saying the best move would have actually been knight c3 right here, developing, right? Also protecting this on e4. But anyway, let's keep going. Now, what I was saying about how they used to play back in the day, this move, this knight move, is obviously an attempt to expose this king in the center. The king in the center is a huge target right now. So instead of developing normally in this position, maybe b7, being carrying the bishop and eyeing down this long diagonal, this really nice diagonal, breaking on d5 and then getting the trade, so you can actually have this entire diagonal very powerful. Maybe moving to d6 like a base defense, then playing knight d2, d7, sorry. And like the engine is saying, maybe just developing normally, right? The knight, see, this is what I'm saying, people don't actually play like this, right? But the knight comes here, obviously threatening check. And if you were to take, then the queen can take on h1, right? Take the rook, and then you're in a whole world of trouble, because then the bishop can actually come in, and then maybe you do play d6, and then the knight, other bishop comes in, and then it gets crazy. So the knight on h4, the idea is to actually block this lane, protect this square, but then also get closer to this king. Obviously this move doesn't work anymore because the queen is no longer right here, right? So if you were to check the king here, the knight can come and then there's no more attack. But this knight is not outpost just yet, but it actually has a very nice square. Next move, kicking the bishop. You know what's crazy though? What if I told you that the bishop wasn't defended? Instead, this knight was attacked. This is what we call in chess a stone wall. Now obviously again, this is not an outpost because the g-pawn can still kick the knight. Obviously you do have a light squared bishop, so it's not a complete outpost. But this knight is proper solid on this square f5 right now. And the knight on h5 is attacked. So what happens? The knight retreats, right? And you think, okay, like this bishop is hanging right now, let's defend it. Maybe we can defend it, maybe we can just move it like a normal human being. Nope. Rook g1, putting the rook on the same file as the queen. Very dangerous stuff. It actually solidifies this square right here. So if the knight takes, the rook can take. This is a pretty important square. And look at this. So the hanging bishop gets taken, and that is a miss. Not necessarily a blunder, but a miss. You see the evaluation bar goes skyrocketing for white, even though you've just sacrificed an entire piece worth 3 points. The evaluation bar. So you're losing right here, and now you're definitely winning. The first great move, the idea of this move, is to actually, I'm not saying the queen is being trapped right here, but it's to squeeze the queen. The queen doesn't really have many escape squares. This is why I said this pawn is pretty important, right? h4, right? Queen goes back, best move. Another brilliant move, well, another great move, h5. The queen comes back, inaccuracy. The knight should have taken, you should have sacrificed the knight to free yourself of this position, but no, the queen goes back. Another great move, literally 1, 2, 3 great moves in a row. Look at this queen. This queen is literally trapped right now. If there was anything that could attack the queen would fall. Literally another great move. The knight retreats, and then bishop f4 comes in on the board, attacking the queen. The queen doesn't have many squares, but it, like I said, is not entirely trapped. The best move, the queen retreats, best move. And now the fourth great move, knight c3. The reason this move is fantastic is because it blocks the attack on the b2 pawn. But not only that, normally when you're developing a knight, so you put it on c3, the next logical jump and what knights in the center of the board, you want to play knight d5. So after this mistake from black, playing bishop c5, the knight actually does that. Even though the engine is saying that it's only a good move, it's not the best move. The best move could have been d4 to block this, to entirely just block off the bishop attack on the rook, and to block off the queen from attacking. Like, it just shuts off the board, completely closed position. Like I said, like, funny enough, the rook is actually hanging right now, but it's not an important piece because after knight d5 is played, the queen does take on b2. So now you have two rooks that are hanging, the rook on a1 and the rook on g1, both hanging, both attacked at the same time. Instead of saving any of them, do you know what black plays here? Bishop d6. Now the engine doesn't understand this move at all. The engine is actually calling the move a blunder, and the idea of this move, which the computer is saying is a blunder, is if you were to take, then I can actually come in recapturing with the check, and it doesn't really matter which move you play, you're going to fall. So if the king obviously moves, there's an automatic checkmate, right? And if, let's say, the king moves, only legal move, and the king has to move because it's in check with a knight. Let's say the king comes here, then we actually have a check here. Only legal move is here, check. Only legal move is here, and then queen, checkmate, right? So boom. What white decides to do, what black decides to do, black actually could have taken here, and that would have been the best move. In fact, it would have been a great move. And that's why I say, like, this is not the highest level chess. The king would have had to move up any other way, and then we could have taken it, which is really good for black. But instead, the bishop is taken, and that is a miss, a very bad miss. In this situation, do you know the most crushing move in this position? If I gave you 10 seconds. If you haven't seen this game before, I guarantee you will not get the next best move. But the move is pawn e5. They say, the engine says that this is a mistake, but what this move has done is it's completely cut the queen off from defending what's about to happen. You have all of these pieces, including a queen, so close to an uncastled king. For some reason, the engine can't see that this is very, very dangerous, right? But what that means is, let's say you do take, like I said, both rooks have now been taken. The king just moves up. Great move. Now there are no more checks. Nothing. And nothing can stop what's about to happen. A blunder, trying to get the knight into the game. And now you've given up mate in 3. Watch this beauty. Knight g7, check. Right. The king moves, forced move. Right. Now look at this, there's a checkmate right here, because this knight is defending this square, this square. This square is occupied, this king cannot move. However, this clearly would be checkmate if and only if this knight wasn't here. So, a bishop has been sacrificed, 2 rooks have been sacrificed. What else could be sacrificed? What is more than 2 rooks and a bishop? A queen sacrifice, the brilliant queen f6 check, forcing the knight to take, because the knight, there is no other move, it's forced, the knight must take, right? The knight takes, queen sack, and check, mate, king's gambit, Adolf Andersen, Immortal Game.